how often in the warehouse are load capacity labels required?
That's interesting. So first of all, the codes, both Canadian and American, refer to load capacity plaques. So, a placard or a plaque at the end of the aisle, both aisles. And the Canadian one that's proposed, they're just proposed. And people start running with this and say, oh, I need a capacity plaque. That's what the code says. Not exactly. They're just saying, well, here's an example of what you could do. And initially, when you design a brand new racking system, you have like maybe 12 different configuration of beam elevations and different types of usage that you want to do with your racks. So it's rather regular. When you look at down an aisle, the beams are often the same level, and you just have one plaque that explains everything. But we get into these situations where the racks have 20, 25 years of existence. They don't have the documentation anymore. They don't know where it is. And by the way, I could tell you that by law, you are required to have it. And by law, I mean, the law says, look at the building code, respect the building code. The building code says respect the rack design code. And the rack design code says you need to have that documentation. And so we go in these places and they have had modifications throughout the years. Rack systems are living entities. You have to adapt to the material you receive. And every time you make a modification, you gotta have a confirmation of some sort, either from the original equipment manufacturer, and be sure to have it on paper. I'm not saying have it stamped all the time, but I'm saying it's, they are supposed to take responsibility. If you have an engineer in-house that can look at it and do the calcs themselves, fine, no problem. But don't just rely on a sheet of paper that says, oh, 3 levels of beam, it should be that much, because nobody's really taking responsibility but you. If you say, well, I took this sheet of paper and that's it. Mm-hmm. So how often? Well, every time you make a change, there should be an indication, either on paper or if it did alter the load capacity of the rack, you have to give a chance to the operators to know what is the maximum capacity so that they don't overload it in the first place. That's not super easy to figure out, but sometimes you have pallets on which it's written, what's the load on this thing. And if they get into a position, and they have that label, let's say on the first beam level, that says 2,500 pounds per pallet, and they look at the label and it's 3,000, they have a chance at least to say, well, I'm overloading this thing if I do this. All right. So that's the spirit of it all.